What's up, everybody? Jammin Jon here from Thralls of Metal, bringing you my top albums for the year. This year has been a giant pile of excrement on every level that I can think of, except for in the music world. The 2020 has been really awesome for a lot of bands. It's been a real pleasure to uncover such a wide swath of amazing albums in a year that can pretty much go fuck itself with a hammer. I'm sure that'll be edited out, at least the swear word version of it. I don't know if Necrotic Nick announced how many he was going to do. I know that the other guys have done a top 10 list. Nick did top 40. I'm also going to do top 40. It was tough to make the list 40. When I wrote my list initially, it was 65, and I don't have time for 65. But I do have time for 40. So I'm going to get right to it. First and foremost is the band Incremate with the album Mortal Domain. So Ronald from Incremate sent us the link for this album a couple weeks before it came out, and somehow we missed it in the email. And then I went back through the email and I reached back out and said, hey man, I will totally review this album. This album kicks ass. And he was like, well, the time has passed for us to be able to, I can't give out any more free streams, blah, 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 whatever. And I said, hey man, look, the album kicks so much ass. I'm not worried about a free stream. In fact, I'm not worried about really any of it. I'm going to pick up the album anyway, and I'm going to go ahead and review it. I'll let you know when it's up. And this album is amazing. Great in the field of old school death metal, definitely for fans of Suffocation and Morbid Angel, and just pummeling guitar riffs, great drum work, the production on it is nasty, great listen. Number 39 was a record that I thought either Nick or myself owned, which apparently we don't, but I could have swore I bought this album at some time and just can't find it. The band Banisher with the album Degrees of Isolation. I was a Banisher fan before this album came out. Again, this is for if you like things like Faceless Burial or Hideous Divinity. It's techy, it's proggy at times. These guys are no slouches for the big chuggy guitar riffs, lots of hooks. The drum work is on point, and I just adored this album. Like I said, I knew it was coming out, and I couldn't wait to listen to it, and I would state for you to do the same. Another band that I don't have the copy of in front of me here, I have it at home, I forgot to bring it with me. It was the band Exa with the album Cut the Past. These guys were a submission into What's John Jamming, a thrash band out of Germany. These guys are pretty killer at what they do. First of all, 2020 has been a gigantic year for thrash, and these guys are no slouches in that area either. Pretty much if you like Testament and Anthrax, you're gonna love the ever-loving horse shit out of Exa. In fact, Exa sent me a new single they have out for their album, and for their upcoming album beyond this one. So the song sounds great, but I said you'll be probably more enthused to know that you guys made my end of your list. And I'm sorry I don't have the album in front of me, and I, off the top of my head, can't tell you what the good song is, but I think it's like track 4 or 5, if that helps. But definitely check out Exa with Cut the Past. Moving onward to an album I do have in front of me. The album Cynicism with Limb Hymns. Now this is again another submission into What's John Jamming. The guitarist Matt Odette reached out to me and said, hey man, saw your channel, saw your Facebook, want to know if you can do a review. And he sent me this gem. This is for fans of Aborted and Benighted and Suffocation. This is wonderfully produced for being an in-home production. Definitely a really solid jam. Awesome dudes in Cynicism. Again, I've had the chance to sit down and talk with Matt the most. The song The Daily Grind, Kill It to Skillet. I love the play on words here. But again, if you like really just awesome, speedy, technical death metal, check these guys out. Number 36 is Primitive Man with Immersion. This album, goodness gracious, this album scares the shit out of me. Like, really. Like, if you listen to this album in the dark, which I don't recommend, I'm pretty sure you will summon Satan. I'm pretty sure demons will claw at your children. This actually made my skin crawl. This is such heavy, gnarly, nasty death doom. Just disgusting. And I think that's how they wanted you to feel. Is what I said when we reviewed it initially. Just disgusting, heavy death doom. I love this album. I did listen to it in the dark. I don't have kids, so if demons came and clawed anything, they weren't my kids. If you live near me and your kids got clawed by demons, I'm sorry. Talk to Primitive Man. Number 35, Sorcerer with Lamenting of the Innocent. Now, if you go back into our review for this album, I initially rated this album 5 stars. This would be, I don't want to say power metal, I'll just say more of like a late 80s, early 90s metal feel, very melodic. Reminded me a lot of Judas Priest. The production in here is killer, riff upon riff upon riff for days. I initially give this 5 stars. I still stand by my 5-star remark. This is a great album. Is it in my upper numbered lists? No, simply because I jammed stuff a whole lot more than this record. But it doesn't change the fact that I thought it was a badass album. So, speaking of nasty, ugly albums that make your skin crawl, Althar with Providence. I jammed this record again the other day while I was at work just to run over as a refresher course, and this album too, a killer release on 20 Buck Spin. 20 Buck Spin has had a hell of a year in 2020. This is again pretty nasty, dark, doomy death metal. You get a lot of old school metal vibes out of this. Yeah, just remember listening to this and remember making the sour lemon face a bunch and just being absolutely disgusted. And you know Nick and I love things like dissonance. I know there's a drinking game forming where if you listen to how many times Necrotic Nick says dissonance or makes an incantation reference, you have to do a shot. So I'm just gonna say dissonance, 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 incantation worship, dissonance. No. Again, I love heavy, doomy death metal albums, and I thought it was a great album. You know, I wish that I could note for note, word for word, be able to recite back all the wonderful things about all these albums, but I'm brain dead. Again, I think a reoccurring theme for at least my list, and I know in Necrotic's list as well, was ambient, dark, dissonant, doomy death metal. Althar's no slouch in that department. Yet another album that was first sent to me through What's John Jamming. Of course, then I became a giant fan of these guys, of this guy, I should say, just one guy, by the nickname of Gigi. Of course, I've talked to him now and know his real name, but we're just going to go with Gigi. That's his thing. Cosmic Putrefaction, the horizons towards which splendor withers. If you've watched any of What's John Jamming, in fact, if you've watched anything that I review, you know that I'm a giant sucker for ambient, dissonant guitar riffs and heavy blast beats and just nasty sounding songs. The lyrical content seemed to have a running theme for Lovecraftian lyrics, space and the cosmos. You're gonna get a lot of space and a lot of cosmos out of Cosmic Putrefaction. It's only got 6 songs, but it clocks in at just a smidge over an hour, so you've got a lot to work with. I know this album has been compared to Blood Incantation, which I would certainly state, at least Blood Incantation's last album. This would be, something that falls in line with that. Reminded me a lot of Ulcerate. You don't get a whole lot heavier than Ulcerate, but yep, Cosmic Putrefaction. And again, I love this album cover too. This is a pretty badass album cover. Abysmal Dawn with the album Phylogenesis. I've been an Abysmal Dawn fan since Abysmal Dawn started, and then I remember we went through that long period where you didn't hear a lot about these guys, and just out of nowhere they pop up with another killer record. I'm a sucker for tech death. I'm a sucker for tech death done well. I'm a sucker for, again, guitar riffs that reach inside your soul and pull your heart out and take a bite and then throw it on the floor. And that's what comes out of here. The song Hedonistic, the song Course Evolution, True to the Blind. I dug this record. Would I state that it was a 5-star album? Nope. But this is a killer record as far as tech death is concerned. I was glad to see Abysmal Dawn release another album and still stay relevant on the circuit. And when shows come back, God, I hate this year. When shows come back, I hope to see this again too. At number 31, this was kind of a late entry, but it was still a killer album. Tombs with Under Sullen Skies. having seen these guys live and knowing what they're capable of, we saw these guys open for Crowbar. It was nasty. Just another great, wonderful, nasty, doomy death metal album. I mean, we just reviewed this, so I'm not going to go into a whole hullabaloo about how awesome I think this record is. I give it 4.5 stars. I love Tombs. I can't wait to see Tombs again. I can't wait to see more material from Tombs. Super killer, awesome, heavy album. I know I made the sour lemon face during this. Yeah, the song We Move Like Phantoms, Angel of Darkness, Void Constellation. Again, it's been such a great year for death metal. Coming in at number 30, another album that I don't have in front of me. I ordered it, actually, and still haven't seen it, but I realize with COVID and all that horse shit that sometimes it is difficult to get albums, as anyone has noticed. Albums or merch or anything, I just assume that it will one day show up on my doorstep, and I can't wait when it does. So it's Gargantua with the album Towards the Sun. Pretty much, if you like Pallbearer, or actually I compared it a little bit more, the music-wise, towards Russian Circles, but obviously there's vocals. So if you like Pallbearer and Russian Circles and Huntsman, I know Nick had that on his end-of-year list. I dug the Huntsman as well. But Gargantuan is another good, really awesome offering of quality stoner doom. I guess I could call these guys stoner doom metal, stoner doom rock. There's a lot going on in there. The song Mire, not to be confused with Mire from Conjurer. The song Mire, the song The New Sun is like 8 minutes long, and that has some nasty, wonderful riffs in it, but it's all about ambience and dissonance and the things I love about metal. So definitely check out Gargantuan. Check all these out. Check all these fucking albums out, man. Between Nick and Joe and Ren and myself, we've probably talked about 100 different releases, and that's only the shit we've found. Check all this stuff out, please. Coming in at number 29 is Necrot with Mortal. Again, when we reviewed this album, I'm pretty sure I gave this a very solid rating. Again, all that I love about death metal. The album cover on here is nasty. The song Stench of Decay, I listened to over and over again. Played it in my car. It sounds nasty in my car. I jammed this at work the other day. Actually, I bought a surround sound system for work because I don't care, because we're in COVID and who cares. So I bought a surround sound system, and then I blasted this record the other day, and people kept passing my desk like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I just kept jamming this album. Bunch of nasty chugs. There's hooks in this album. Sick-ass drums. This album needs to be played on full blast. Play it for your parents. See what happens. Coming in at number 28, Cult of Lilith with Mara. Now, we can go back to when I initially reviewed this album, and I said that it was, the music was really good, but it was too all over the place and too many knee-jerk transitions, and sometimes it was too crazy. And that was when I first reviewed it. And then I thought, you know what? No, I liked Cosmic Maelstrom. I remember when that first came out as a single, I was like, I really liked that song. I really thought there was potential. So I went back and listened to this album a bunch more. And as I got to probably like my 9th or 10th time on this album, I realized that I actually really dug the fuck out of this album. And perhaps I shouldn't have rated it so low. So Cult of Lilith, I am sorry. I actually really enjoy this album. This, again, is a lot of what I like about metal, a lot of what I like about more of the technical side of metal too. This reminds me a lot of Iron Dissonance, when Iron Dissonance was at the top of their game, except more melodic. So like, you remember the album Minus the Herd from those guys? That's what I would compare this to, except this is more melodic. The transitions, still, while they are a bit knee-jerk, are actually quite impressive because these guys don't skip a beat. And the drummer of this band is goddamn awesome. So, yeah, another great listen. Coming in at number 27, Lick with Misanthropic Breed. I loved this album. I loved when we jammed this album, when we reviewed it. I don't remember what I gave it for a rating, but I don't care. This album is sweet. This, again, is just a bunch of nasty Swedish death metal, and I love Swedish death metal. Even if I had no idea what Swedish death metal was, or I'd only heard it a few times, I would turn on this album and go, yep, that's definitely from Sweden. The guitars are nasty. There is great riff work going on here, a lot of crunch, a lot of chug. Plus, who's not a giant fan of Bloodbath? And these guys sound like Bloodbath, which is really sweet. And then, of course, who doesn't love the play on words? Female Fatal to the Flesh just happens to be one of the best songs on this album, I think. You know, I remember when we heard it and I said, well, I hope this sounds as nasty as Formula's Fatal to the Flesh did, and it does. This is a kick-ass album. I've seen this all over people's reviews. These guys deserve it. This is such a badass album. Coming in at number 26, Sweetums from the Muppets and Benediction Scriptures. That's just a joke. Dave Ingram, you just remind me a lot of Sweetums from the Muppets. No, this album kicked ass. I'm pretty sure I gave this 5 stars. If I didn't, I probably should have. It's so awesome to see bands make a comeback after being gone for so long and then just release a complete whoop-ass album. Rabid Carnality, In Our Hands the Scars, Embrace the Kill. I'm so enamored with 2020's releases as far as badass albums were concerned. Not that I didn't expect great things coming out of Benediction, but this album just kicks so much ass. Which is tough to say because Transcending the Rubicon was also a pretty solid album, but this album, I think, did way better. And that's rough to say, because that was an awesome album. But yeah, Benediction Scriptures. If you haven't checked this out, please go check this out. I don't see how there's any way you don't know about this album, but go jam this. I love this goddamn album. And especially with Sweetums from the Muppets. So, at number 25 was Zabalba's Años en Infernio. I don't know if I said that right. I don't know if I said it right when we reviewed the fucker in the first place, but I gave this 5 stars. I still stand by that. This album is such an awesome mix. With this album, there are elements of hardcore, elements of death metal, elements of death doom. There is so much going on in this record, and I remember when we jammed this, and I couldn't wait to see what happened next. Like, every time they transitioned into, you know, they said, okay, well, we're going to make some heavy riffs. And then so you listen to the song and you're like, man, that was heavy. And then it transitions and you're like, holy shit, that was awesome. And that happens on every single song on this record. You know, such a good progression for these guys to go from more of that hardcore into post-metal, hardcore, death metal. They're just everything on this album. And these riffs are just so gnarly. You know, the rhythm section really works well. This whole band as a unit functions well together. And this record is just so heavy. I still stand by my 5-star rating. And that's that. So that brings us through the first 15 albums. I have 25 more to go. And 25 more is what you're going to get. Until then, I will see you guys soon.